Mace Windu was a human male slightly over middle age born on Horan Cal 72 years before the Battle of Yavin. The natives to Windu's planet had a natural ability in the Force. When he was 6 months old, he was taken by the Jedi Order after he was orphaned. There is not much information on who Mace spent his direct apprenticeship under, but he did learn from Jedi like Master Yoda and Jedi Master Tura Sa. Windu excelled through the Jedi ranks at an early age, eventually becoming one of the youngest beings to be appointed to the Jedi Council at age 28. Furthermore, he would become the Grand Master of the Order, second only to Yoda himself. Unfortunately, Windu lived his last days during the waning years of the Jedi Order, and eventually was killed by Darth Sidious after Anakin Skywalker broke his concentration, cutting his hand off. Still, Mace Windu had an enormous control of the Force and was regarded as one of the best swordsmen of the Order. Darth Malgus, born Veradun, was a middle-aged human male born on the Sith world Dromund Kaas in 3700 years before the Battle of Yavin. Much like Windu, Darth Malgus was born into his Sith Empire as Windu was born into the Jedi. His adoptive father saw the dark side in him early on after he killed one of his servants. Shortly after, Malgus was sent to the Sith Academy where he would be trained. It is also vague who Malgus learned under while at the Academy, but if it was anything like the norm of his time, he would have been taught by several Sith Lords throughout the Academy. Sometime after his training at the Academy, he would be under the direct apprenticeship to his master Vindican. Much like Windu, Malgus went up the ranks of the Sith quickly, eventually killing his master after Vindican was defeated by the Jedi Khao Sindarach. Over the course of his time during the Great Galactic War, he would become mutilated and disfigured, held together only by his Sith powers and his cybernetic suit, but he still held his own as one of the greatest powerhouses of his era. From a very early age, Mace Windu was extremely connected to the Force, a trait the people of his world were renowned for. He was especially powerful in his resistance to the dark side, even using the dark side from his opponents against them. Windu was even able to perform abilities similar to the Sith like Force Crush without falling into the aggression that came with the power. Most of all though, Windu was proficient with a rare Force ability known as Shatterpoint. This ability allowed the user to see the weakness in their opponents and the future of their actions with precision. Malgus too was very strong on the dark side of the Force. He was able to implement a variety of standard and Sith abilities, such as Force Push, Choke, Speed, and Lightning. He has even been known to deflect lightning from his opponents and redirect it back towards them. Even with his varied skill set, he was able to chain them together very easily. He was also very talented in retaining his life through the dark side. He was very resilient to attacks, even from grenades and rockets. His boiled hatred served him well during his many encounters with Jedi Knights and Masters alike. Ultimately, however, that would be his downfall against Mace. Though Malgus had a strong and raw power in the dark side, Windu's ability to absorb his opponent's dark energy and repel it against them was his greatest asset. Coupled with Windu's ability in the Shatterpoint art form, he could easily be able to find weakness in his Force chaining and react to Malgus' moves. The more frustrated and enraged Malgus would become, the more Windu would channel that energy and rebound it back towards Malgus. Also, in regards to Malgus' use of Force Lightning, Mace has showcased a defense against that as evidenced in the Revenge of the Sith movie and book. During the fight between Sidious and Mace, it is described that Mace turned the lightning attack from him back towards Sidious. In regards to Force abilities, I give the edge to Mace Windu. Both Windu and Malgus have fantastic ability with hand-to-hand combat. Both men use the light and dark side of the Force to enhance their martial arts abilities. There are several instances where we see Windu and Malgus in martial arts situations. During the Battle of Dantooine, Mace overtook a group of Confederate droids with only his hands and his ability in the Force. Another instance where we see Windu using his martial arts skill was against his clan brother Car Vaster, who nearly beat him. Malgus, on the other hand, is never shown having any hand-to-hand combat with his opponents, but there are several examples of his unarmed strength. In his novel Deceived, he is described as crushing a Jedi's throat with his bare hands and later kill Lord Adros with his bare hands as well. We also see him withstanding a tackle from Republic Trooper, rockets, grenades, and even an avalanche of rocks. In short, he was a rhino. In terms of their martial arts ability, I think their fight would play out much as Mace's fight went with Car Vaster. In the book Shatterpoint, Mace describes Vaster's attack as stronger and faster, and that he could have beaten him on his best day. However, Mace had a stronger ability in the Force, which helped him triumph over his clan brother. In the case of a battle between Mace and Malgus, I would argue that Windu wouldn't be as lucky. Though Mace trumps Malgus in terms of Force ability, Malgus' raw physical and brute strength could plow through Mace, even if it was only by a margin. In terms of martial arts ability, I would give the slight edge to Darth Malgus. Mace Windu carried a very unique violet-hued lightsaber with a hilt that was made of electrum. He received his violet crystal after a special mission on Hurricane, whose natives gave it to him as a gift. Other than his lightsaber's color, it was pretty standard for the time. Mace was proficient in all known lightsaber forms of the time, eventually creating Vapad, which to him completed the menacing and untamed Juyo form. As a prerequisite, all practitioners of Vapad had to have some proficiency in all the previous forms before trying to tackle its exhausting moveset. For the Jedi, Vapad was the most dangerous form to practice as it involved getting very close to the dark side. The form was highly offensive and combative, and part of the practitioner had to enjoy the fight. For Sith like Darth Maul, Juyo was the perfect form, which required raw emotion behind each strike. The Jedi would go on to ban the form until Mace and Sora Bulk picked it up again and perfected it, turning the raw emotion it required and transforming it into a ferocious form used for the light. When used properly, the form was devastating for an opponent. The moveset was unpredictable and lightning fast. Though the form was said to get through the defenses of a master of the Surisu form, it was dangerous to the user as it gave in heavily to the dark side and can leave them open to attack. In fact, Windu was the only Jedi to master the form. It was this mastery which enabled him to go toe-to-toe with Darth Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. The other two practitioners, his former Padawan Depa Billaba and his colleague Sora Bulk, fell to the dark side because of their use of the form. However, a true master of Vapad was unstoppable in one-to-one combat. Darth Malgus carried a hefty Sith lightsaber. Like all other Sith, he used a red synthesized crystal, which had more cutting power than Jedi variants. Though Malgus' lightsaber form was never explicitly stated in any text, it can be inferred that he was a practitioner of Jim So form. Jim So was also a highly offensive form, though it was more varied than Vapad because it turned defense into offense. Users of the form would often parry an attack and instantly counter with an even stronger attack. Though Malgus had a lot of raw emotion, I would not go as far as to say that he was ever a practitioner of Juyo because his fighting style was not as chaotic or unpredictable as that of other Juyo users. Instead, his strikes were very precise and extremely strong. Furthermore, we could presume that Malgus had experience sparring other Sith using the Juyo form. Therefore, Windu's use of Vapad would not catch him immediately off guard. However, Malgus' fighting style relied heavily on the use of his rage and aggression, which is something Vapad was used exactly to counteract. He may have been familiar with the concept behind Juyo's sporadic attacks, but he had never experienced a form which could counteract his own rage. Therefore, I give the extremely slight edge to Mace Windu as a lightsaber duelist. The fight between Darth Malgus and Mace Windu would by no means be fast and quick. Though Malgus had a variety of Sith Force powers at his disposal that he can easily chain together, Windu's Shatterpoint ability would give him an edge to see what was coming. Though Windu has showcased extensive skill with his martial arts, Malgus' brute strength and will to live gives him the edge over Windu. Ultimately, this fight would be decided based on Mace's ability to feed off Malgus' greatest asset, his rage. Windu's mastery of a pod would enable him to channel Malgus' bloodlust into his own power, and I believe would give him the ultimate edge. Thus, Malgus' greatest asset will become his greatest handicap. I declare Mace Windu the victor. Of course, this is all just my opinion. I would love to see your thoughts and comments. Let me know if you think that Malgus would have won, or if you agree that Mace would have been the ultimate victor. Peace, love, and may the Force be with you. Always.